In this video, I will show you a really cheap gaming PC build with a white aesthetic. So if you're looking for a whole white setup, this PC build is going to be amazing because it's going to deliver really good performance at 1080p for a cheap price. Also, throughout the video, I will explain on how to make this PC a bit more expensive or how to make it cheaper depending on your budget and depending on your needs. So don't worry if you want a white aesthetic and you have less money, or maybe you have a bit more and you want more performance. You will have all the links to these PC components down below in the video description, and I will try to explain them as simple as possible. That way, even if you're a PC beginner, you can understand. That being said, let's start. For the CPU, we have the i3-12100F going for $100, which is a really good price for this 4-core 8-thread processor that is going to give you amazing performance at 1080p and also 1440p depending on the graphics card. Remember, if you are looking for a gaming PC, the most important PC component is the graphics card, but you need a CPU that will not bottleneck your GPU. Then for the CPU cooler, we have the ID Cooling SE214XT. I have to say, you definitely don't need an aftermarket CPU cooler for the i3-12100F. You can get away with the stock cooler, but the stock cooler is black, so you can either paint it and make this free upgrade or just buy this $20 white cooler. So I just put it there for aesthetics. Of course, it's going to give you a better and more quiet experience, but it's really not necessary. So if you want to save 20 bucks or so, just feel free to go with the stock cooler and either having it black or painting it yourself. Then for the motherboard, we have the ASRock B660M Pro RS. This is a really good motherboard for just 95 bucks. You have enough gaming features and there's nothing wrong with it. I highly recommend you buying this one. If you want a motherboard that has more white than this, it's going to be much more expensive, and this wouldn't be a budget system if you want a motherboard like that. However, don't worry because it will not kill your aesthetic. You're barely going to notice the motherboard, especially because it's micro ATX. Then for the memory kit, we have the Timetech 16 gigs of RAM kit 2x8, only going for 30 bucks. This is a DDR4 kit of 3600 MHz at CL18 memory. If you don't understand anything about computers, just don't worry about these numbers. 16 gigs of RAM is the standard for gaming. You definitely don't need 32 gigs of RAM, especially at this price point. And honestly, this kit looks amazing. It's white and it's really cheap. Then for the storage, we have this MSI 500GB Gen 4 SSD. This is a really fast SSD kit, just going for 20 bucks. I've never seen a Gen 4 SSD going for this cheap, especially a 500GB kit. 500 gigs is enough to get you started. However, if you're going to download a bunch of games, let's say you want to download games like GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption, Flight Simulator, and all these type of games that are heavy on storage, I do recommend you getting at least 1 terabyte, and it's going to cost you around $20 extra. But again, 500 gigs is enough to get you started, especially if you're trying to play esports titles like Valorant and CSGO that will not require a ton of storage. Then for the graphics card, and like I said before, the most important part on a gaming system, we have the RX 6600. This one has 8 gigs of VRAM and it's excellent for 1080p gaming. I wouldn't recommend it for 1440p, so if you want a 1440p monitor, I will explain to you what graphics card to get instead of this one. But for 1080p, the RX 6600 is going to be able to run every single game, even the most high demanding ones, at 90 plus FPS on average. And for esports titles, like I mentioned before, CSGO, Valorant, and all these type of games, you will be able to run at above 140 FPS on average. That being said, if you want a 144Hz 1080p monitor, you can take full advantage of it. If you want an NVIDIA GPU, I do not recommend it because it's going to be more expensive if you want the same performance as the RX 6600. However, I would recommend you buying the RTX 3060 or 2060 depending on your budget if you want the same or maybe a slightly better performance than the RX 6600 for 1080p gaming. But like I said before, it's going to be more expensive, and if you're willing to spend that money on the RTX 3060, let's say, you can get an AMD GPU for the same price that is going to perform much better. And don't worry, more on this in a second. Then for the case, and one of the most important components because it's a white PC build, we have the Bitfinex Nova Mesh Micro ATX motherboard. I love this case, honestly. It looks amazing. It's all white. You also get 3 pre-installed fans, which is huge because honestly, if you want a white PC case that doesn't have fans included and then you add them yourself, it can get quite expensive. So just for 60 bucks, you get an all-around nice case with pre-installed RGB fans. Now, if you don't really like this case and you want another one, you will have an alternative in the video description, but just note that it's going to be more expensive. Last but not least, the power supply. We have the EVGA 550 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. This is the VP model. This is C tier rated. If you don't know what that means, it basically means that it's a low tier power supply, but it's definitely enough for this type of build. There's nothing wrong with it. It will not explode, which is the most important thing, and it's only going for 55 bucks. So for me, it's a no-brainer considering how expensive the power supply market is at the moment. So by the time that I'm recording this video, this system is 580 bucks. And like I said, for 1080p, this is an excellent gaming PC that will fit really good if you want a white aesthetic. If you want to make this PC cheaper, the only thing I recommend you downgrading is the CPU cooler. I would take it out and just leave the stock cooler and paint it myself if you want it white. That way you save 20 bucks and the total price of this system would be around $560. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend you downgrading any component, especially if you want brand new components, because any component that is cheaper than the ones that I've mentioned are usually not worth the price. And if you even have more money, let's say you have around $650, I do recommend you buying the MSI Radeon RX 6650 XT. This one will give you a much better gaming performance at 1080p, and it's also 1440p capable. So if you want to play at 1440p, 60 plus FPS on average, of course it's going to depend on the game and the settings, but for most games 60 FPS on average will be possible, and more than 100 FPS on average for esports titles will be definitely possible as well. Also, it has more of a wide look than the RX 6600, so it's even going to fit better on this system. But again, it's going to cost you around 100 extra bucks. Here I didn't upgrade the storage, but that is something that I do recommend you upgrading, like I said before, if you're going to download a bunch of games and you're looking to spend $20 extra or so. One thing that you can do if you want the best performance for the price is taking out the cooler for 20 bucks, and with those $20 saved, get a 1 terabyte storage. You will get these PCs at the same price and you will have more storage, which is more important in my opinion than just a CPU cooler. However, if you really value aesthetics, the CPU cooler is a nice to have. Now, if you want a Prebuilt PC instead, because let's say you don't want to build it yourself, not only you will have an alternative in the video description, but I do recommend you watching my best budget Prebuilt PCs video in the top right of the screen. You have different budgets there, and you also have white PCs as well with black ones. Honestly, they are great for the price on the Prebuilt PC market, so just note that if you don't want to build it yourself, a Prebuilt PC is actually a really viable option, especially because of the warranty. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.